Subscribe to Motoroids for the most in-depth and detailed car and bike reviews. Hit that bell icon and you will be notified before everyone else.
Hey guys, welcome to Motoroids.com, and we have already done a detailed review of the Marazzo, but as a lot of you requested, here we are with a comparison of the new Marazzo with the Toyota Innova Crysta. Now at the outset I want to be very clear that these two cars reside in two very different segments from a price perspective. The price of the Innova starts much later after the top end variant of the Marazzo ends. So the top end variant of the Marazzo is for 13.9 lakh rupees, while the Innova's 2.4 litre diesel base variant starts at 15.6 lakh rupees. So there itself you have a gap of about 2 lakh rupees, and it goes all the way up to 21 lakh rupees. If you go for the 2.8 litre automatic, you'll have to pay about 23 lakh rupees. So that's a difference of about 9.5 lakh rupees. So the two cars reside in two very different dimensions in terms of the price. However, a lot of car manufacturers have tried to play catch up with the Innova, which is indestructible, which is something which nobody has ever been able to come close to in terms of the reliability of it, in terms of the fact that it can run for ages without giving any trouble to its owner whatsoever. And does the Marazzo try and come close to the Innova in terms of the qualities that the Innova is known for? We did a very comprehensive test on the two cars, and today I'm going to let you know all about the two cars and how close the Marazzo is to the Innova in terms of the space, in terms of the comfort, in terms of all the things that should make the Innova Crysta feel a little bit threatened. So without much ado then, let's get going with this one. Now let's start with the looks, and looks, as they say, are always very subjective, and one may have his own personal opinion about the two cars, but we are going to make it very concise for you. The Innova looks a bit more substantial, a bit more rugged, a bit more masculine of the two. It's a bit more angular. It feels wider, bigger. It feels that it's been made to take a lot of abuse. It feels a bit more rugged and rough, and while the Marazzo by itself looks very nice, very well proportioned, the attention to detail is fantastic. It has that slightly feminine touch to it, and that's a big point of differentiation between the two cars in terms of looks. Also, these LED DRLs as well as the white lights of the HID make the Innova a bit more premium, especially in the night. It looks a bit more wider, a bit more squat, and if we have to pick one of the two in terms of styling, we have to pick the Innova. You may have a different opinion, and your opinions are always welcome, but in the flesh, the Innova looks a bit more premium, a bit bigger. So that was about looks, but looks are different from dimensions, and when you compare the dimensions of the two, that gives you a very good idea of the space inside. And you'll be surprised to know that there are some areas where the Marazzo actually aces the Innova. And the first of it, and the most important one, is the wheelbase, where it has 10 mm longer than the Innova, and not just that, it's wider by 36 mm as compared to the Innova Crysta. And when they say looks can be deceptive, this is what they mean. And we'll get you inside the cabins as well, and you realize that there is very little to tell between the two cars in terms of space. But the Innova is longer, it's taller, but the Marazzo has a longer wheelbase and it's wider, so it's going to be a very, very close contest. Now before I get inside, I also want to talk about the weight, and the Innova is about 200 kgs heavier as compared to the Marazzo, and it weighs in at 1850 kgs for its curb weight. And now we are going to get inside and see how the front seats of the two cars measure up. Now before we get started, full disclaimer, the model that we have here for the comparison is a 2.8 litre diesel automatic, which is the absolute top of the line variant, and it retails for about 23 lakh rupees. So there is no comparison in terms of the price. This is also an automatic, not a manual, which ideally should have been the case, but we got the car that we got our hands on first, and still we will get a very good understanding of the seats, of the space inside, because the dimensions of the car and everything else is pretty much the same. Even the 2.4 litre is something that we have driven before. We have driven the manual version, so we can give you a very good perspective about the differences in the two cars in terms of how they drive, how they handle. But we're going to start off with the seats first. And the seats on this top of the line variant are first and foremost all leather, while on the Marazzo they are leatherette. And I also get an electrical adjustment. So now I've set the driver's position to my liking, and the first thing that I can tell you is that there's a lot of thigh space, there's a lot of shoulder support, and these seats are some of the most comfortable seats in this segment and all the segments below it. These seats are known to be very comfortable over long distances, and this armrest along with this wide squab, this shoulder support, really makes the Innova seats very, very, very comfortable. Does the Marazzo's front seat match up? Let's go there and see. Now the first thing that you realize once you sit on these seats is they are also very comfortable. Under thigh support is not a problem at all here. The big difference that you feel is that you sit slightly higher than in the Innova. You're closer to the roof. The seat is a bit more contoured. It's not as flat neither at the bottom nor at the back, so the support that you get on the shoulders is slightly better in the Innova. Also, those seats are electrically adjustable. Here you have to do all the adjustments manually, although you can also adjust the seat for height. But the one big advantage that the Marazzo seat has is that it gets lumbar support for the driver as well as for the front passenger. And with these armrests, I personally believe that this seat can give the Innova's front seat a good challenge. The padding is fantastic, the contouring is fantastic, the support that I'm getting right now is amazing, and I really think that Mahindra have paid special attention to make sure that the seats on this car really measure up to the Innova, and the comfort that these seats offer is something that we have not seen on many other cars, and full marks to Mahindra for having come up with such comfortable seats up front. So I think it's a tie if you really compare the seats up front, except for the fact that the Innova gets electrical adjustment. Now the Marazzo's second row seats are also extremely comfortable, no complaints whatsoever. There's a lot of knee room, and this is the furthermost position that the seat is at, with the driver's seat set to my driver's position. And as you can see, there's ample knee room here, and with this beautifully carved out knee recess, you also get a lot more space as compared with the Innova. We have already sat there and had a taste of how much knee room is there. So the knee room, actually, if you take into consideration this carved out space, is a little more. However, with reference to this part, it's a little less. But if I take the seat back, it just opens up a lot of space here, and there's a lot of space to move around your leg as well, since there's no transmission tunnel. So along with this light theme of the upholstery, the Marazzo's cabin feels very light, airy, and the big windows along with these comfortable seats make you feel like, you know, you're sitting in a very comfortable, very premium kind of a car. These armrests obviously help a lot, although there is one thing that you'll be missing on these seats, and that is that they don't go all the way back. They only recline this much, unlike the Innova seats, which actually go all the way back. So that's one thing. And apart from that, there is this other thing that the Innova has, which this one doesn't, and we're going to discover just that now. Oh, and before I get out, these sunshades on the passenger window is something which the Innova doesn't offer, and it's here on the Marazzo. Now this is the Innova's second row seats, with the front seat set to my driver's position, and these two seats are aligned so that, you know, we have a good reference point. And as you can see, the knee room is comparable to that in the Marazzo, so there is not much difference. And this is the furthermost setting. If I take it all the way back, I think it's comparable. None of the two wins over the other, so the knee room is comparable in both the cars, although the space to move your leg around is a little bit more in Marazzo, since it doesn't have any transmission tunnel here. So in that sense, the Marazzo wins, but the seats here I think are slightly wider, and the comfort at the shoulders is also slightly better. So that's one aspect of it. Also, for the top of the line variant, you can just pull this lever and move the front passenger's seat forward to liberate all the more knee room. So that's one advantage that the top of the line Innova Crysta has. So I'm not even talking about these trays which are here purely because of the fact that this car costs a lot more, and the fact that the overall materials here with the leather and this faux wood and everything feel a bit more richer. But then again, the price is so much different on the two cars that you cannot really compare. However, talking purely from a comfort perspective, I think the seats on the Innova have a slight edge over the Marazzo, and that's down to the fact that you can take this seat all the way back and relax. Now the third row is often unusable in most of the cars, but the Innova has been one exception. The third row seats on the Innova have been usable, and people have been using them for medium distance journeys. And the first thing that I'm going to do to demonstrate to you how much space is there is I'll take the seat to its furthermost position and tumble the seat down, and it's quite easy to get in, although the floorboard looks a little bit higher than the Marazzo. So entry here is a little bit more difficult than on the Marazzo. However, the one thing that spells convenience on the Innova Crysta is that you can tumble both the seats. However, in the case of the Marazzo, you can tumble only one seat. So that's one big difference. However, once you get inside, there is decent amount of knee room, and obviously the guy in the front is not going to be leaning over me, so it has to be reasonably upright to liberate some knee room for me. And I have a cup holder here, though I don't have an armrest here, and which may be a big difference because the Marazzo offers an armrest here, this one doesn't. And the other big thing is that here's a lever and I can recline the seat and relax. This recline function is not there on the Marazzo seat. However, I just want to demonstrate this to you so that you have a good understanding. One important factor that not many people talk about is the fact that once you take the seat down, there is space to put only one leg between the middle row of seats, and that's another difference that I'm going to talk about. But in terms of knee room, it's reasonable, it's not bad, it's good enough for medium journeys, and you can actually seat two people in comfort. There is ample headroom as well, and the fact that this backrest reclines is a big plus for the Innova. Now, as I mentioned before, only the left seat tumbles down on the Marazzo, and the entry here is slightly lower, so it's a bit more easier to get inside. And once you get inside, you realize that even the Marazzo has a very comfortable set of seats at the rear. And once you bring the seat in the middle in its place, you see that the knee room here is slightly better than the Innova. Also, you get this armrest and a cup holder, so that adds to the space. You also get this adjustable headrest, which would aid comfort definitely, although you don't get a central headrest, which you do get in the Innova. And the one thing that I was talking about was the recline angle for the backrest, which is not there in the Marazzo. So while the overall space here is a little more and you feel a bit more comfortable as long as the backrest is upright, when you get the backrest reclined on the Innova, you start feeling a bit more comfortable, and that's the big difference between the two cars' seats. Another important aspect that I mentioned while testing the Innova as well was the fact that you can only put one leg in the middle of the two seats ahead. However, with the Marazzo, there is ample space for two people to put their legs, and I think over a longer distance that is going to aid comfort if you're going to be traveling with two people in the third row. And that's something that not many people are going to talk about, but I think this is going to enhance comfort over medium to long journeys, and that's something that you need to be mindful of. So if you really talk about the comfort in the third row seats, I think it's going to be a tie because the space is very comparable. The Marazzo has this advantage of having an armrest and extra leg room for the rear passengers in the form of the space between the front seats. However, the Innova has the advantage in terms of the fact that its seat back reclines. So there you have it. Also, one important aspect of the Marazzo's third row seat is that its windows are so much bigger. The cabin is of a lighter color, and that really makes this place a lot more friendlier, a bit more airier and a bit more comfortable, perception wise. So I would rather be here than in the Innova, because to those who feel claustrophobic, I think this airier cabin would be the place of choice. Which brings us to the Marazzo's boot space, and at 190 liters it's not the best amount of boot space that you'll get, but it's reasonable, and you can always tumble down the third row of seats, which is, by the way, 60-40 split, and you can tumble them down with just one hand like so. So once you do that, you'll liberate 1055 liters of space. So while the boot space with the third row upright is not all that great, you have the flexibility of tumbling the seats down, although this loading lip could probably have been at the same level as the bay, and it would probably have made things easier, but it's not very high, so it's not going to affect the convenience much, I think. In comparison, the Innova's boot space is 300 liters, which is 110 liters more than the Marazzo's. Also, the loading lip here is in seam with the bay, so putting stuff in and taking it out is easier. The third row of seats is 50-50 split, so you can always tumble it down, although you have to press the same lever that you would press to recline it, and in that sense it's not as easy as the Marazzo, but the space here is definitely a bit more, and the convenience of putting things in is also a bit more enhanced on the Innova. Now inside the cabin, obviously the Innova being a more expensive car, a more premium car, the interior feels a bit more richer, and this is the top of the line variant, so you get this wood insert on the steering wheel and a lot of things which are a lot more premium than what you get on the base and the mid variants. However, since we have to let you know about the two cars in complete detail, we thought the top spec variant would be a good reference point, and in that sense you can definitely make out that there's a lot of difference. These wood inserts, the quality of the dash itself, the solidity of it, and the way the steering wheel feels, all of this definitely makes the Innova feel
a bit more solid, a bit more premium, a bit more richer on the inside. However, in terms of the storage spaces, both the cars are evenly matched. While the Innova has some storage space here, the Marazzo also has a lot of cubby holes of its own, and that's not one area where the Marazzo is going to let you down. However, the one thing that we don't like about the Innova's interior is the fact that it's just too dark, and had there been lighter colors, it would have lent a sense of airiness and openness to the cabin, and that's not the case, especially in the third row of seats. So that's one negative about it. However, overall, if I really have to give it to the car which has a better interior, especially in the top end variant with these leather seats and everything, the Innova takes it, but then again you have to pay a lot higher price for it. Also, in terms of features, if you compare the quality of the audio, I think the Innova is the better sounding of the two. In terms of safety, it feels a lot more solid. It comes with 7 airbags while the Marazzo gets only 2, although the Marazzo gets disc brakes on all 4 wheels. The braking somehow on the Innova feels a lot more substantial. So in terms of features also, the Innova has it. However, the infotainment system on the Marazzo has a few more features, and you can have a look at all of them in the detailed review that we've done. But overall, if you talk about the richness and the features that really matter, I think the Innova, with its attention to detail and the quality of materials, has the better cabin of the two. Now the Marazzo also, as you can see, it's very well finished with its lighter colors and this modern layout. It feels very nice and fresh and rich and premium. However, as I mentioned before, the Innova feels better in terms of the quality of materials and the overall feel of the cabin. But for the price that it's being offered at, I think the Marazzo's cabin really stands out. The infotainment system comes loaded with a lot of features. And another important aspect for the Marazzo's cabin is its roof-mounted AC vents for the second and third row passengers, which can be used for an even distribution of the cooled air. You can either have the air channeled to you directly or in a diffuse manner using either this or those vents. So that's a novelty that the Marazzo is offering. However, if you really compare the chilling factor, the power of the ACs, I think the Innova has the better air conditioning of the two, and the Innova on a hot day would chill the cabin faster as compared to the Marazzo, despite the Marazzo having this roof-mounted air distribution system. Now from behind the steering wheel, this steering feels lighter as compared to the Innova. The Innova steering wheel feels a lot more solid. That car has a lot more heavier, a lot more solid feel to it. And even around the corners, I think the Innova is the better handling of the two. Having said that, the Marazzo also is a decent handler. It's not a bad handler at all. The body roll is very well contained, but the Innova of the two has better dynamic ability, and that's settled. We did a comprehensive test on the two cars around guard sections, and the Innova, in terms of its handling and stability, came on tops. The Marazzo trails, but not by much. Now this brings us to the powertrains on the two cars, and the Marazzo features an all-new powertrain in the form of the 1.5 litre diesel with 121 HP and 300 Newton meters of torque, which actually is a good figure for a new engine. It's very refined, it's very smooth, and the cabin of the Marazzo is actually very quiet, and that's one area where it actually aces the Innova. The cabin of the Marazzo is much more insulated. No wind noise, no tire noise, no ambient noise, no road noise, and Mahindra need to be congratulated for the kind of insulated cabin they've made. However, talking specifically of the powertrain, the Innova is offered in 2.4 litre and 2.8 litre diesels, and there's a petrol version as well. The power outputs are 148 HP and 174 HP. The torque output also is more at 343 and 360 Newton meters, which obviously is more than the Marazzo, but looking at the kind of capacity that it has, 2.4 litre and 2.8 litres as opposed to the 1.5 litre, it's not much of a difference if you really compare 40 Newton meters and 60 Newton meters. So the performance from that engine is very good. It's very refined, it's very linear, and the biggest advantage that the Marazzo has is the fuel efficiency. At 17.6 kmpl, the real world fuel efficiency from the Marazzo would range anywhere from 13 to 16 kmpl in the city and on the highway, as opposed to the 10-11 kilometers per litre of the Innova. It never goes beyond that. Innova is not known to be a fuel efficient car, so the Marazzo definitely has a big advantage in terms of fuel efficiency. However, if you really talk about the performance, the Innova definitely has an advantage. It feels quicker, it feels a little faster, it feels a lot more solid, it feels better to drive. However, as I mentioned before, you have to pay a lot higher price for that. So fuel efficiency, refinement, the Marazzo; performance and handling, the Innova. Also, the Innova comes with an automatic option, which the Marazzo doesn't. It comes only with a 6-speed manual. So how well does the Marazzo stack up against the Innova? Well, this is not the first attempt to dislodge the Innova from the supreme perch that it sits on. And you don't beat the Innova with fuel efficiency, you don't beat the Innova with more space, you don't beat the Innova by offering freebies or features.
You beat the Innova by creating a product that keeps running, doesn't make you spend any money at all on service and spares, and gives you complete peace of mind. Would the Mahindra Marazzo be able to do that? Well, only time will tell. But for all the other things, from what we saw, the Marazzo comes tantalizingly close to challenging the Innova and displacing it from its perch. And with its features, with the kind of cabin that it has, it's going to appeal not just to the fleet operators, but will also offer itself to a lot of family buyers as well, because that interior is actually very, very nice. I would personally want to have that interior in my car. And from that perspective, I think there would be some attrition from the Innova, at least initially, unless some gremlins emerge with the Marazzo. But if it functions properly, if it doesn't break down, and if it holds itself well, I think it's going to be a very, very, very strong challenger to the Innova. The space inside is almost as good. The comfort inside is almost as good. That engine is very refined. The cabin is very, very insulated. The suspension is very good. And the car really drives very, very well. So the Innova has a challenge in the Marazzo. It's very close, but the Innova is a legend for its reliability, for its durability, and that rock solid feel that it gives you. We have to pick the Innova today as a winner of the shootout, but for the fact that it also costs so much more money and it's more premium, but you have to pay a lot more money for that. The Marazzo, for the price, is a fantastic car, and we really have to give it to Mahindra for having created such a fantastic, fantastic machine. So on that note, I really hope that this comparo was of some use to you. If it was, do hit that subscribe button, like this video, do share it with your friends. And until next time, this is Amit Changani signing off. Rev hard, rev free, and drive safe.